Welcome to Field of Screams podcast. Today we'll be talking about Scream 7. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this movie. And I think if you're going to look at the controversy, you almost got to go back to Scream 6. Way back to when they had Scream 6 going, Spyglass, which is the label, they refused to pay Neve Campbell enough money to have her come back for the 6th installment. I remember I was very disappointed by that. I was like, how do you have Scream without Neve Campbell? As soon as Scream 6 came out, Melissa Barrera tweeted something pro-Palestine. One of the top representatives of Spyglass did not like that. They decided to not renew her contract, even though there was talks that there would be a third movie in the little trilogy aspect of Scream 5, Scream 6, and Scream 7 was supposed to wrap up the storyline with Melissa Barrera's character. Now, during the timing of all that, I was like, man, what in the world is Spyglass doing? Like, you are not treating your final girls very well. Neve Campbell was one example, is them just being cheap. But then you have this example to where, it's a political decision. And I was very disappointed at the time. And there was, again, a lot of mad people online. But as kind of reveals have been going on for this Scream 7, they're kind of announcing that the actors and actresses from past Scream movies whose characters are dead, they signed on for this movie. So it's kind of like, Dewey? Is Dewey back? Oh, the killer from Scream 3 who's dead, he's back. Oh, Matthew Lillard signed on. Is Stu back? And that created quite the hype train. I think a lot of people kind of speculated that AI would be in play, but still, when all those names kind of get talked about, it does create the interest and buzz. But again, with the controversy, I saw online before this movie even came out, there was a lot of people just saying, you know what, I'm not going to watch this movie no matter what, I'm going to boycott it. I seen some people say that they were going to spoil this movie as soon as they saw it. And in my head, I'm thinking, what in the world? Like, if Stu Macher comes back, I don't want to find out via spoilers online. I want to see it in person. So I made sure I made it to the theater rather quickly. Probably quicker than I normally would, just because I didn't want to be spoiled, on if Stu's really back or, if it's other killers at play. I didn't want to be spoiled that detail. Unfortunately, while I was on the internet, it was like 2 or 3 days before this movie even came out, there was one person on Reddit who was like, yeah, why even bother seeing it? By the way, this happens, and they tried to completely spoil it. Now, granted, the spoiler that they said supposedly happens didn't actually happen. So that supposed leak that they thought they saw, it was either a false leak or they were just trolling online, trying to get a rise out of people. Now, granted, I'm calling this an out-of-theater review. Technically, this is 2 or 3 days since I saw the movie, so technically I'm not right outside the theater reviewing this, but I just haven't had the chance to get to my mic and record this episode, so that's why, it's labeled that. But even in that time that has passed in the 2 or 3 days since I've seen it, I got on Reddit, and someone was in a thread trying to spoil this movie, and they were actually commenting who the killers were, and it's like, oh my god, this sucks. The situation sucks, because you can go and you can try to criticize those people, but again, it's political reasons, and a lot of them are just mad because it deals with Palestine. The people who are mad, they're like, oh, they're mad because the Spyglass people, they're trying to ignore genocide, and they'll go from that angle. But some people just want to see the movie, and it sucks when it's spoiled. So that's just why there's a whole lot of controversy. Again, anything politics related, usually you don't want to relate it to movies and everything. But yeah, I'm glad I saw it early, or else I would have been spoiled. So now, kind of shifting gears from, the pre-movie hype and everything surrounding it and the controversy, let's talk about the actual movie. What do we think of this movie, Scream 7? And I will just come straight out of the box, and I will say I enjoyed 80 to 85% percent of this movie. And really, I think I don't think really I'm alone in like what I think of this movie. But I think most of this movie until the very end of the reveal, it's a good time. It's a fun movie. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I will say one of the best dynamics that this movie has. I mean, granted, it's fantastic that Neve Campbell's back playing Sydney. That's fantastic. But the thing that this movie does better than, I mean, granted, Scream 6 didn't even have her, but then Scream 5 is it has the dynamic of having Sydney's daughter in play, Tatum. And the actress who played Tatum, she did a very good job. The emotional parts, the parts where she's trying to voice, what she wants. She wants to be a survivor like her mom. Just those little moments in the film. Those were all great. But I think the thing that makes it even better is Sydney's vulnerable in this film. I feel like it's been a long time, maybe since Scream 4, that Sydney has been truly vulnerable. Scream 5, whatever you think about it, Sydney's just kind of strutting around the entire time in that film, almost like acting like an Avenger. Like someone would like call her up and like, "You're gonna die, Sid," and she'd be like, "Oh, whatever. You're like the fifth one to call me and try this. Like, good try." And it's just kind of like, like Sydney's not gonna get touched in this movie. At least in this one, the entire time that I'm watching. Like not only am I thinking, something could happen to Sid, like Sydney's a little older now, let's see what happens. But there's also the thought of, what if they kill Sydney's daughter in this movie? Wouldn't that be heartbreaking? Wouldn't that be traumatic for our final girl that we all love? And I think it made a lot more stakes for this movie. And it wasn't really just them two either. I mean, Joel McHale, he did a fantastic job as Sydney's husband. You didn't get the sense that it was a member from the Community TV show. The goofy character in that show. He's a lot more serious, and just the few moments that he has in this movie, he does a great job of just setting the dynamics of Sydney's husband. Gale has a fantastic entrance in this movie, probably the best entrance in this franchise of just, I feel like Scream likes to do it. Scream knows it has characters that everyone loves, like Dewey enters the scene, Gale enters the scene. And this was probably the best entrance for Gale that the franchise has, where she literally just runs over one of the early Ghostface characters and just pops right out of the car. Literally, people in my theater were clapping when that happened. I've seen some people compare it to Marvel, and I think the only thing I could compare it to is just the reaction, because it got people really excited in my theater, and I was one of them. I was cracking up laughing. I thought it was funny. I thought it was cool. But granted, I don't think Marvel would run over someone like Gale ran over Ghostface. It was a pretty gruesome scene, but that was awesome. And I love the whole just dangling the bit of, is Stu truly back? Even though it was technically spoilers. Geez, what am I doing? We're going to spoiler territory here. Even though technically it was AI, the little bits that Matthew Lillard was on screen, he chewed the scenery. I enjoyed seeing him. I was really hoping that he was back. Before watching this movie, I was like, man, if they bring Stu back, this franchise has jumped the shark. But as I was watching it, as it was going further and further into the movie, and they were teasing it, hinting it, even Sydney and Gale are like, this could be Stu. In my head, I was like, man, this could be the Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives. Finally Jason becomes a zombie in that franchise. We could hit that mark and Scream. And I really, really wanted it in this film. To be honest, when I say I only enjoyed 80 to 85% in the reveal, the only thing I was let down by was it wasn't Stu. I wanted Stu so bad. And I don't think this movie really knew what goldmine it had. I truly think it would have been a home run, a grand slam, if the final reveal would have been Stu Macher. That would have been fantastic, amazing. Just the dynamics of this movie, it feels very similar in tone to the first one. all the characters feel grounded back. Like this Sydney feels more Sydney than we've seen in a while. And I had more fun with this movie than I have with the Scream film in a while, like probably since Scream 4. Like I really loved watching Scream 4 in theater. I remember coming out of that experience and being like, that was just as good as Scream 1. Like I was like one of those guys, just raving about it. I haven't seen it in a while. But I remember I really, really liked it. And this movie, like, it kind of had me feeling the same way. I don't think it's better than Scream 4, but I definitely think it's up there. Whenever I do rank the Scream franchise and I rank all the individual movies, which I will get to eventually, I do think this will be kind of in the upper echelon of the movies. I just enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed all the characters. The kills were pretty cool. There's that one kill where he stabs the guy in the side of the head and you see his eyeball turn. That was gnarly. I really liked the drawn out scene to where the girl was like all harnessed up and Ghostface just like slices her open. That was crazy. Even the opening had me laughing. Like this movie, like it did two things. Like either I was like excited about what was happening or I was laughing and just having a good time, which I think is important in a Scream movie. Like even in the first one, like it's not always 100% serious, but it has its serious moments, and then it has its moments where it makes you laugh. Like it's just some silliness into it. One of the kills that did crack me up is where Ghostface impales a guy into like the beer dispenser and like the beer like shoots out of his mouth, but there's like blood in it and it just looks disgusting. That was really cool and it cracked me up. And again, like these over the top kills, like again, it just reminded me of Friday the 13th part 6. Like in my head while I was watching it, I'm like, oh man, this is like Jason Lives, but instead it's Stu Lives. And I was just like hyping myself up on the idea. And like, again, before the movie, I was like, there's no way they would do it. But then while I was watching it, I'm like, they better do it. Like they set it up so well to where I just wish they would have committed to the idea of bringing Stu back. That would have been so cool. I was surprised to see Chad and Mindy back from Scream 5 and Scream 6. I liked Chad from the movies. Mindy, I feel like I got a little tired of her in Scream 5 and Scream 6. I thought she was a little much sometimes, which isn't completely her fault, because her character is usually in charge of like telling the audience, what type of film this is, like what type of satire are we bringing to a Scream movie. And I felt like as the movies have gone on and on and on, one, it makes sense. It's like the original. It's like it's satiring scary movies. The second one, it's satiring sequels. Third one, satiring trilogies. Fourth one, satiring, was it reboots, I think? The fifth one, satiring requels. And by the time we hit that, I was kind of like, really? Like, I know the technical requel was a trend at the time, but I kind of I hated the term itself. I don't know why, and it's not like Scream 5 invented it. They were just riding the wave of what was going on in horror. But, while I was doing that, I was kind of like, well, whatever. Maybe I was just being a Debbie Downer at the time. But then we hit the sixth one, and the thing that annoyed me the most about her character is she's like, guys, we're a franchise now. And I was like, what? This is the sixth movie. Are you telling me it wasn't a franchise before? Like, it's only now a franchise because we're in the sixth film and because we're in New York now? I just thought it was a bit silly. So, I mean, like, her character had a burden to carry for the fifth and sixth movies of a franchise. But I just never was that big into her character. I will say their parts were very small, and even though I technically didn't like Mindy that much in 5 or 6, I didn't mind her in this movie. But her parts were, again, very small, and I think maybe that's where her character is best kept at. She's replicated as like the female Randy, and I loved Randy growing up when I was younger. When I used to watch Scream 1 over and over and over again, Randy was one of my favorite characters. But I'm kind of wondering, since I feel that way about Mindy, if I went back and rewatched the first one again, maybe Randy has grown a little stale on me. Maybe I'm just getting old and bitter. I don't know. I did think it was a little cheap that Chad and Mindy, they both got like stabbed and sliced a little bit, and then at the end they're like walking around again. It felt like Scream 6 all over again. Chad was like a freaking pin doll in Scream 6. I remember that. I was like, what in the world? Like, this dude got stabbed like 97 times. He got stabbed more than Julius Caesar did. And you know, he's just walking it off. But again, it just kind of felt like a similar fate for them. Another thing that was kind of hokey in this film is like the very end when they finally show the AI versions of the past killers and then Dewey's back. That felt very cheap. Like, how many TVs are in Sydney's house? Like, did Ghostface go and rob a Best Buy and just plant all these TVs everywhere just so he can do the AI version and like try to scare Sydney? I thought that was pretty hokey / cheesy. And I thought the reveals, like, the reveal sucked. Like, you know, the guy who was like in charge of like the mental ward, and then like Anna Camp, who we see Anna Camp like not that much in the movie, and like even like her like trying to like break down and tell like why she's the killer. I was kind of like, oh, we got sloppy here. Like, this is sloppy. Now, granted, after the reveals, like Nev Campbell and Anna Camp duking it out, that was kind of cool, and them blowing her face off, her and her daughter doing that, you know, her daughter kind of fulfilling that self-fulfilling prophecy of being a survivor and eliminating a killer. That was all nice and dandy. But it was just like the build up until that part. Like, everything was so solid until like that end. And then again, it just felt like super, super sloppy. I even felt like there was a lot of references to like the OG Halloween. Like, you know, Tatum and her friends walking along the sidewalk. It felt very Halloween-esque. Tatum running through town when like everyone was closed up for the night and she's screaming, "Help me." Again, it felt very Halloween-like, you know, like screaming for help and no one's coming to their doors to answer. That was all very cool, and I like the setup and everything of that. Again, the ending was just a little, again, sloppy. Like, I didn't like the reveals. It should have been Stu. Like, you guys had a gold mine. It should have been Stu. Another thing that kind of like burdens me with like Scream movies, when the reveals aren't that good. Like, usually the character in the film is just like a normal person, like, "Hey man, what's up?" But then like by the end, when it's time for the reveal, they're like, "We all go a little crazy sometimes," and it's like, tone it down. And Anna Camp was doing that a bit. I mean, you have to. Like, you are a serial killer, so you do have to be crazy. You know, it's not like they can come out and just shrug and be like, "Yeah, it was me, bro. Sorry." Like, no, they do gotta amp it up. Like, that is part of the film. Like, that's part of the formula. But, you know, like after 7 movies, it's kind of like, you know, when it's just the random reveal and they're like, "Oh, you didn't know that I was the cousin to your father who was crazy and I accidentally killed my brother, which made me go even more crazy." And they like go into this convoluted backstory. It could have just been Stu. That would have been a very simple thing. And it would have been a nice payoff, because I spent the whole movie just winding that wheel up, getting me all excited, and then they didn't go through with it. Apparently, the director in an interview, he was talking and he said they actually shot the film both ways, and they shot the ending with one of the endings was the reveal being Stu, and apparently they showed it to test audiences. And the test audiences didn't like it, and they're like, "No, he has to stay dead," and that's why they decided to do this reveal instead. It's just a little buzz I heard on the internet about it. But if that's true, like, freaking test audience, like, you had one job, and you could have perfected this movie, and you blew it. Who knows, though? Maybe the way they shot it was just they did a bad job. You know, you don't know unless you're there. Now, this movie is making a killing in the box office, so they've already greenlit Scream 8. I'm kind of excited for it. I want to see where they go. Hopefully, they see people disappointed with the reveals, and they do decide to bring Stu back for Scream 8. I would be totally on board with that. I need to see zombie Stu, or at least, like, scarred up Stu, you know, who, like, they faked his death, you know, and his, like, rich parents, like, kept him hidden. I need to see that movie. I want to see it so bad. And I hope they deliver it one day. But yeah, so this has been my review for Scream 7. Again, very, very fun movie. I didn't like the reveals of the killers. But overall, it was a fun time. I'm glad I went and saw it. And again, like, it was the most fun I've had with a Scream movie since like Scream 4. So I think it was solid. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I see a lot of people not liking it online, and then I see some people like treating this movie like it's Shawshank Redemption. I think, the true answer lies a little bit in between. But for me, again, it was fun and I had a good time. So, if you're still listening, thank you so much for listening. If you could give this episode a like, it gets it out to other people. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. So, when Scream 8 happens and when Stu's actually alive, you can hear me talk about it. Again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time.